Yeah, we can talk about that. Because this is like one of those parenting conversations that gets people real confident and also really off track. There's this quiet belief that if your child simply listens to you, then you're doing everything right. They did what you said. They stopped the negative behavior. They got quiet. The situation de-escalated, and in that moment, it feels like a win. Like, check, good parenting handled. But let me gently and not so gently challenge that belief system. Just because your child listened doesn't mean they actually learned anything. It just means that they responded in a way that you thought was positive. And those are not the same thing. Obedience gets treated like the gold standard. If they obey, you must be doing something right. But obedience is surface level. It tells you what happened externally. It doesn't tell you what's happening internally, because a child can follow directions and still be confused. They can comply and still feel disconnected. They can say, yes, ma'am, and still not understand why what they did even mattered. So the real question isn't did they listen? The real question is what did they actually take from the moment? Now, let's be honest about how compliance usually happens. You can you can get it through pressure, through tone, through authority, through consequences. You can tighten up real quick, voice gets a little sharper, posture changes, energy shifts, and suddenly behavior is corrected. Quick, clean, efficient. And listen, I'm not even going to pretend that that doesn't work, because it absolutely works. But efficiency and effectiveness aren't the same thing. Because when compliance is driven by fear, even subtle fear, your child's not learning values, they're learning strategy. They're learning how to read your mood instead of learning how to adjust their behavior based on what they know is right and wrong, but more so based on how you're going to react to what they do or don't do. They're learning how to avoid whatever consequence is coming next. And that's not growth, that's risk management. That's a kid thinking, how do I not get in trouble, instead of what's the right thing to do? Let me put it to you like this. Uh, if your child only makes the right choice when you're watching, is that actually their value? Or is it your presence? Because those two are different systems at work. One is internal, while the other is surveillance. And surveillance only works when the camera's on. And this is where good behavior can fool us. We love it, we celebrate it, we brag about it. They're so well behaved. They never give me any trouble. They know better. But sometimes what looks like good behavior is actually a performance. It's a child who's learned to stay quiet, don't push too far, keep everything smooth so nothing escalates. That is not emotional regulation. That's emotional suppression. That's not a child understanding themselves. That's a child managing their environment. And here's where it gets a little deeper. Kids who grow up in high controlled environments often become very skilled, but not in the way that we think. They get really good at reading people and predicting reactions. They get good at avoiding conflict, hiding mistakes. They become strategic. And from the outside, it can look like maturity. It can look like they've got it all together. But internally, there's often very little self awareness, because nobody taught them how to process what they're feeling. They just learned what not to show. So now we've got a child who looks good but doesn't actually understand themselves. That's a problem that doesn't show up immediately, but it absolutely does show up later on in life. Now, here's where the shift that changes everything. There's a huge difference between raising a child to avoid punishment and raising a child to understand impact. When a child is still trying to avoid punishment, their internal dialogue usually sounds like, well, what do I need to do so that I don't get in trouble? Or how do I make this go away? How do I not get caught the next time? But when a child truly understands impact, those internal questions change. They ask themselves, how did my actions affect someone else? What could I do differently next time? What kind of person do I want to be in situations like this going forward? That's where the growth lives. Not in fear, not in pressure, but in understanding. Now, let me be clear because I can already hear somebody in the back getting nervous. This is not about you removing boundaries. This is not let your kids do whatever they want and we all just breathe through it like a meditation retreat. No, you're still the authority, you are still their guide. Structure still matters, but the goal shifts. You're not just trying to stop behavior, you're trying to build awareness. You're trying to help your child connect their actions to real life outcomes in a way that actually makes sense to them and not just in a way that keeps things quiet for the moment. So the next time your child listens, before you mentally high five yourself and move on, just take a second to pause and ask yourself, did they understand why I had them do this? Did I explain how this could be impactful in the future or how it'll affect their lives and other people's lives? Did I give them something they can carry with them when I am not around? Because those are the real tests in life. The goal is not a child who behaves perfectly when you're standing there watching them. The goal is a child who knows how to think, choose, and regulate when you're not around. And this is the part we really don't talk about enough. If your parenting only works when you're in the room, then it's not influence, it's control. And control has a very short shelf life. Eventually you won't be there, and whatever it is that you've built inside of them, that's what they're going to use to operate from. So yes, you might get compliance, you might get quiet, you might get immediate behavior change, but that change is coming from fear instead of understanding. You didn't build anything sustainable, you just manage the moment. And I'm going to leave you with this because this part matters more than people realize. If you didn't teach them how to choose better, then what you actually taught them is how to avoid getting caught. And those two paths, they don't lead to the same type of